This week during school, I held up an abacus and I asked my kids what it would look like if mom sat there with my mouth hanging open, spinning the beads, refusing to be interrupted. And they laughed, and I said, "That's exactly what we look like on our screens. And moms, that is also what we look like when our lives are passing us by." If this resounds in any way, keep watching because I've got a complete practical plan to break that cycle for a family so that you can actually start enjoying life together again. So, that whole abacus story came from our school day this week. One of my daughters recently had a writing prompt for language arts, and it said, "Imagine what it would be like to not have electricity. What activities would you choose that don't require it?" And I totally botched the exact wording because the way that it was phrased, it was almost like it was mind boggling that you could exist without a screen. Like surviving without electricity would be this radical, impossible scenario. And I just thought it was crazy. Unfortunately, that's where we are in today's world. When I was growing up, we had a box TV, and I say that because I would notice that we would all just sit there, mouths open, glazed over, staring at an empty box for hours. I just had that in my mind. It's like, this is a box, and we're all just looking at it. Now the box is thinner, and sometimes it fits in your hand, but it's still a box. It's the same concept. So I said to my kids, that's what we're doing, guys. When we're glued to the screen, we're just dumbing ourselves down. Our chins are down, our mouths are open, we're zoning out. We're not engaging with the world and the people right in front of us. It's crazy. But here's the thing. My generation, I'm in my late 30s, almost 40, is the last one to know what it was like to be bored, to not be distracted by screens all the time. We had flip phones, we weren't scrolling, we weren't all dolled up and performing for an audience on TikTok. We choreographed dances to Jennifer Lopez and performed them in front of our parents. At least some of us did. And we spent all afternoon on that. Those were the days. We had adventures in the woods. We rode our bikes until dark and only came inside for a sandwich at lunch. We played with dolls. We pretended. We just enjoyed the life right in front of us. I'm not trying to over romanticize it, but the alternative is staring at a box. And that is just such a waste of life. But there's something really beautiful going on right now. I think there is an awakening happening. People are feeling the pull of the addiction and they hate it. They hate seeing their kids glued to it. So let's lean into that pain point. I want to show you there is a way out, and it is so much simpler than you think. It takes work and intentionality, but it's very simple. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. But just remember, we're not abnormal. Every generation has their thing, they have their tendencies or the things that threaten to pull them under and affects their generation, their kids. Ours is this, at least one of the things. But we don't have to give into it. We as humans made in God's image are called to take dominion, not to be ruled by a device or anything else. Psalm 90:12 says to number our days so that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Ephesians 5 tells us to make the best use of our time because the days are evil. We are called to steward this life and not let it slip through our fingers with incessant scrolling. And as I always say, it starts with us. If I don't want my children to waste their lives, lose their ability to connect, lose their imaginations, then I need to be intentional about how my time is spent first. And that's why the first step of this protocol isn't about our kids, it's about mom and dad getting aligned. So let's get into it. As many of us already know, we get sucked in because of a neurological reality. Screens cause dopamine spikes. They are designed very intentionally to hold our attention through constant stimulation. And over time, our brains get used to that level of input and we instinctively start to reach for it. So, a full dopamine reset just means resetting the brain to enjoy and reach for sources of dopamine that are God given and based in real life. And those cause more natural patterns of dopamine release. You can start with 7 days, or you can go to 30 with this reset if you want a deeper reset. So there are 4 pillars. The first 3 are what you might expect, but the fourth one is the piece that a lot of people overlook, and honestly, it's what makes the whole thing actually hold. So let's get started. So before you start, get your family on board. Getting on the same page with your husband first is really helpful if you're married. And then sit down with your kiddos and frame it as a challenge, not some sort of punishment because you're just fed up. You can say something like, Hey guys, we're going to try something new for the next 7 days or 30 days. We're going to do a challenge together. And if we make it through, we're going to do something really special as a family. I would just encourage you to pick a reward that would be something that they could genuinely get excited about, like a trip to the zoo or something local that they love, just something special enough that you guys don't normally do on a given week, something special enough that would make them actually want to earn it, preferably screen free. Some kiddos will resist, especially depending on their age. So that might be something to work through, reminding them that they are called by God to honor and obey you as their parents, even when they don't agree. But aim to inspire and encourage first. There are probably going to be some kind of growing pains. That's just normal. Keep the reward in mind, stay positive, and encourage them to do the same. So let's go ahead and get into the 4 pillars of this reset. The first one is to minimize screens and high dopamine triggers. So, a basic setup can look something like this. You choose what's best. Some ideas are no screens in the bedrooms or during meals, some tech free hours in the evenings, and maybe one full screen day a week if you really want to take this a step further. Sometimes just cutting the Wi Fi on that day can actually be really helpful in creating friction and making it easier to not reach for a screen. Little things like this all add up and they can be very helpful. The second pillar is to immediately replace these voids with natural dopamine. You can't just take something away without putting something in its place. If you remove a screen and leave a void, something else is going to fill it. So you want to be ready and try to think of some ideas ahead of time to set yourself up for success here. And I'm going to give you a very practical way to do that here in a minute, but just giving the overall big picture right now. In general, screens give your brain constant stimulation. Cartoons, social media, games, they're all designed to hold your attention through nonstop novelty, like fast cuts, loud sounds, something new every few seconds. Your brain gets used to that pace. And so the reset just retrains and rewires your brain to find satisfaction in slower, real rewards like finishing a project or going for a walk or a bike ride, making something with your hands, or even having face to face connection by talking or playing games or even working together on something as a family. That gives real dopamine too. It's just slower, but it's a whole lot more powerful. Your brain can genuinely learn to love those things again. It just takes a little time and rewiring. The third pillar is to build daily structure. And I don't mean build a rigid schedule. I more mean just to try to decide in advance what the day is going to look like and what your rhythms can be. Some examples of structure that you can provide in the day is to have no screens the first hour of the morning. You can plan for some midday movement. You can put your phone on airplane mode after a certain point of the evening and set out a book to grab instead. When you decide in advance that these are the times that we check messages and these are the times that the phone is in the drawer and we're with our people, it is a whole lot easier to hold the line. You're not making those decisions when you're tired. You've already made it and you just put one foot in front of the other. By the way, if you want help building some of those rhythms in your day that provide structure and help you take care of the things in your home, I created a free 20-minute masterclass that is super practical and it walks you through building those. You can check that out at the link in the description below, but let's keep on going. The fourth pillar is for after the reset, and that is to reintroduce screens as a privilege or a tool and not as the default. And this is the place that a lot of people overlook, and it's what holds the whole reset together long term because the end goal is not just to dabble and go back. It's to progressively improve how we use our time so that we don't waste our lives, but steward it well. And it's a process. It's a process of learning. The goal here is to just keep going further up and further in. So after the reset, screens can come back to the degree that you guys would like. But for us, it's been helpful that we keep it to limited windows, never as the default. So when it's a special thing, rather than some kind of expectation, kids just very naturally learn to use their imagination. They enjoy their activities and they're not dependent on a screen for entertainment. This is what keeps the family from sliding back to where you started. Even with my kids, by the way, who don't use screens regularly at this point, there are times where we will watch something on the weekend and then turn it off and they'll have a bad attitude. So when that happens, I'll tell them, if you can't have a good attitude about this, that tells me that you're not ready for this privilege. So just know that it's very normal for screens to affect attitudes even after a reset. So it's just something to be aware of going in and something to walk your kiddo through. And one more thing about boredom, because I think we tend to underestimate this. Letting your kids be bored is actually part of the reset, and it's a good thing. When my kids tell me that they're bored, I'm happy to help them find something to do. They can pull from our chore jar and they can help me with some extra tasks. I have so many things that they can help me with. So at this point, they have learned that telling me that they're bored just means that mom is going to find something productive for them to do. So they've started figuring it out themselves and they're happy to go play. And that's the goal. Boredom is where imagination lives. And we found that it's best not to rush to fill it. Okay, so I promised you a way to help you prepare and set yourself up for success, especially if the screen has been a big default for your family. So, if that's the case, the key is to decide ahead of time what the alternative options are so that when the screen goes off, and a child is standing there not knowing what to do with themselves, you've got some ideas ready for them to look to, especially as they're getting used to this and building their imagination muscles. At which point, once they get used to it, you can just pull from a chore jar. But anyway, the tool that you can turn to help you through this piece of the equation is to build a dopamine menu for the family before you launch the challenge. I have another video that you can watch where I talk about this for moms, and I'll link that down below. But for now, I'm going to talk about how to build one for your children. So, when you're building your dopamine menu, think of it like a restaurant menu. You've got your starters, those are your quick 5 to 10 minute boost, and then your mains, which are the more fulfilling activities that take anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. Your sides are things that you can pair alongside chores and tasks to make them more enjoyable. And then your specials or your desserts are your bigger rewards, maybe 1 or 2 times a week. So for the kids menu, some starter ideas or things that just take a few minutes to get them going could be something like a dance party or turning on a playlist to a song or coloring or a beat the clock chore race, going out and walking the dog, reading a book together, building a small fort, stacking some blocks. Those are just some ideas. For the mains, the bigger chunks of time, you could list things like a bike or scooter ride, a park play, depending on where you live, maybe cooking or baking together, arts and crafts. You can give them some supplies if you're comfortable with it, set them at the table, let them go to town, a board or a card game. My kids love going outside and building their little cabins in the backyard based off of a book called Roxaboxen. If you haven't read that book to your kids, I highly recommend it if they're younger. It's very inspirational. It was for our kids. They will spend an entire afternoon out there and come inside genuinely proud of themselves. And honestly, I'm proud too. They're really neat. So I'll link that book down below if I can remember. But some other ideas are to garden or help in the kitchen, things like that. And honestly, remember that writing prompt I mentioned at the beginning? My daughter's answer was basically this list: play with her dollhouse, play with Frodo, our dog, build the cabin, jump on the trampoline, piano, Legos, watercolor, read a book. And that's exactly what we're going for. So for sides, these again are the things to layer in alongside whatever they're already doing, if they're cleaning the room or whatever, or drawing. So some examples of that is listening to some music or an audiobook or story time with mom and dad. And then for dessert specials, the bigger ones that you save for 1 or 2 times a week could be something like a family bike ride or going out for a little treat or a picnic, a backyard camp out, a big creative build like a big obstacle course or a fort, nature walk, whatever would excite your kiddos and is something that they could run with and do, or if you wanted to, you guys can do together as a family. By the way, if we haven't met yet, my name is Lauren and I'm a homeschooling mom of 6. And this channel is all about building fruitful, life-giving homes through simple, God-honoring rhythms. If that sounds like something you need, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss my weekly videos. So picture a Saturday where your kids built a fort together in the backyard, ate popsicles on the porch, and came inside tired and happy. That is such a real thing and is very much within reach. If you start with this dopamine reset, here's how you can keep the momentum. A visual tracker is really helpful and motivating, at least it can be for us. And it could be something simple that your kiddos can check off, which is a dopamine spike. And they can even have their own if that would be fun for them. Kids respond really well to seeing their progress. When I start a new habit, a little mantra that I try to stick to is to not let myself miss twice in a row. One hard day is normal life. It's fine. Life happens, things slip. But I found that two in a row can get tricky and make it a lot harder to stick to something new. And that definitely happens too sometimes. And if it does, just get back on track. Don't give up. But in general, I found it to be a helpful principle. So, for 7 days or 30 days, the goal here is simple. Don't let yourself miss twice. And at the end, follow through on that reward and enjoy it to the fullest. After the reset is over, there is one little piece of this that I found protects everything you've built, and we can call it the sanctuary rule. One room or one stretch of evening hours that is real life only zone. For us, it's meal times and the evening hours after dinner. Generally speaking, the phone goes in another room or it's on silent and in a drawer. We are at the table, we are present with each other and enjoying family time, and that's it. Just knowing that these are the times that we check messages and these are the times that we're with our people, again, that clarity alone goes a long way. This, my friends, is how you stop wasting life and start actually living it. Get your dopamine from looking at your children in the eyes or having a real conversation with your husband or a friend. Get it from exercise or from doing something with your hands and enjoying a finished project. We are free to enjoy the life that God has actually given us. And that is what's waiting on the other side of this reset. And in my opinion, it is so worth fighting for. Again, if you want help bringing some life giving structure into your home, check out that masterclass that I mentioned down below. It's totally free. Thank you so much for being here today, and I'll see you in the next one.